All right. Is your revenue model protected? Okay. Why am I asking about your revenue model? Well, inventors invent things. They invent technology, and they may develop a new market. We've learned today that there are sometimes you have a problem that you solve, and you have to create a market around it. All right. The business that you're developing there isn't tied totally to technology. It's tied to you being able to invoice a company for something and them to pay you on that invoice. So when I'm speaking of are we protecting our revenue model, your patent strategy should account for what you're going to generate in terms of revenue in exchange for what you're invoicing your customers for. An important concept that we'll dig into more. So this is just a generalized version of a value chain. You may have vendors, assembly. I put a product designer, our medical device company here. Let's just call it Medco, surgical use. This is more in the implantable space. But the value chain, you can apply the principles to other contexts. Let's say in this situation, patents are owned and cover the product here as it's delivered to the hospital system or to the physician. This is a pretty classic scenario. This is at a minimum what a company should be doing in the medical device system. In this example, what you're shipping to the hospital, you're going to send an invoice for, and what you're going to get money for, is that which we're claiming. And the red box in this and the subsequent slides, these are my claims, okay? You want to cover this particular area. Now, can your customer buy from a third party? Well, practically not without permission from Medco. Now, are there other factors in play in the business setting? Of course, but this is just one part of it. Let's change the value chain a little bit. We've talked earlier today about some ancillary services. Let's say medical device company says, you know what, I want a little bit more robust protection. Let's extend our patent coverage into surgical methods, or use of the implant, or use of the product. And also, maybe there's an app or a software as a service that we're offering to the hospital system as an adjunct to the implant and the instruments that we want to sell, okay? You may not be getting revenue for this, but it may help close the deal. Now, what if you had patent protection for that ancillary service, as well as surgical use? Now remember, we're having claims that of course, still have to be new and non-obvious over the prior art, but now you're in a position where you're covering different parts of your value chain in a bit more robust way. Is this going to cause money to fall from the sky by itself? No, but will it change how a hospital system or your competitors approach the market? I think so. It typically does. This is a message really to the competitors that, you know what, to really match the value proposition, I've got to then design around this ancillary service patent. I've got to design around a surgical use patent. I've got to design around a product that the designer had created. That's pretty significant task to do and task to accomplish. You're just making your life difficult for competitors. Okay. Now, let's go one step further, and let's go down backwards into the supply chain. Maybe we can cover some method of assembly in putting the patent together. All right. Maybe we can even go further and down to component vendors. Now, in this situation, 3 to 5 years down the road, where you're offering, you're generating revenue, you're engaging with hospital systems and physicians or what have you, but you're also protecting, your supply chain. So just think about what type of negotiating position your company may have in this environment. Will it be the be-all, end-all? No, you still have to have good products. You still have to have good clinical outcome. You still have to execute. You still have to have good distribution plans. But is there anybody in the room that wouldn't like to have a little bit more leverage when you go to the negotiating table with customers or suppliers? Okay? Having source protection this far back in the supply chain can give you some comfort. It would make your supply chain professionals probably, rest a little bit more easy at night. and again, can customer buy from a third party, not without permission from Medco? The other thing I would ask here, could your component vendor sell their product to a third party if you cover their technology? Well, not really without permission. So in this context, you can see how patents can be used a little bit further back in the supply chain just to help with your business. Okay, switching gears to continuations. How can we use the patent system to address competitive threats and just the dynamics of the marketplace? You introduce a product, somebody is going to copy you or copy the essentials of what you're doing or copy a competing product. How do we address that? Well, in the US, thankfully, you can file, say, this first application. And before it actually matures into a US patent, you can file what we call a continuation. And I said here, filed January 1, 2018. 2 years later, while this is still pending, you can file another continuation. This strategy can be used for as long as there is patent term available. Large medical device companies do it. I think smart companies that have the resources and the ability to invest in IP in a robust way do this. And we'll go through some examples of why this is important, but just continuations. All right. You file patent application A, January 1, 2015. The application issues as a patent, January 2, 2018. Your patent covers your product. Great. Maybe you even have some patents back in the supply chain or use patents. But you elect not to file a continuation to save money. And we're talking $4,000 to $6,000 to file a continuation application. All right. 2 years later, which this will happen, introduces a competing product that copies almost all of your essential features. Not quite everything, but just enough to get a similar clinical outcome at a price that's competitive. All right? The competing product somehow avoids the patent claims. Well, there's two conversations you got to have. One is, what do we do, and then how do we miss it? Sometimes you can't anticipate what your competitors will do and how they modify or change a product. Sometimes technology changes and shifts the underlying groundwork that you've been working with. Well, in this case, from a patent standpoint, I can't really do much to help. I don't have, 10 minutes, okay. Got patents that don't cover anything. Let's fast forward a bit. Same scenario, you file continuations, you've got a patent that covers your product, but now you've got some continuations pending, competitor comes, copies the essential features of what is issued. What do you do? Well, now my client can come to me and say, look, we've got a competitor that's entering the market. What can we do? I go check, I look at their continuation, I draft patent claims. Now that competitor has patent infringement risk that they didn't have before. All right? So continuations are tools. There's business tools to use to help you protect what you're investing in. Okay, I want to just speed up a bit. Protect as much as the value chain as you can.